Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey, and we are glad to have you with us tonight. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, all those good things. If you can take just a moment and do that right now, tell your friends, heck, tell your enemies. We don't care. Uh, if they love whiskey and they love music, we've got a place for them. All right. So tonight we're doing our Whiskey of the Year Award show live. And before we get into that, I want to introduce the gang that's with me. I am Kevin Rose. And to my right is Drew Crawley. Drew,
All
what is up,
right.
sir?
Whiskey of the Year show, baby. Let's go. So excited for this one. It's going to be a great night.
Yes, lots of fun. Benjamin, name changer. What's up?
Keep your eye on that all through the evening, wherever it is.
Yeah.
Doing good. Excited about this Whiskey of the Year thing. I think it's been a
awesome,
fantastic year for whiskey. So a lot of good stuff has come out. But
yeah, I think we've there's a whole lot more that we could talk about than we probably have time for. But I know what's on our lists, and I think that it'll make for some good conversation and some great recommendations for anybody that is looking for something new. So each of us tonight will be revealing our own Whiskey of the Year nominees and our own Whiskey of the Year. And we went over the nominees briefly on last week's show, but we want to go over that again tonight and tell you a little bit more about them, and then tell you what is our Whiskey of the Year. But we'll do that on side B of the show. For right now, we're starting out side A. We want to talk a little bit about music awards, the music awards that we handed out last time, and give you everybody a chance to hear a little bit about that. And we will start things off with Benjamin Eaves and your albums of the year.
Album of the year. Also, just a little bit of a, I guess well, maybe not so. If you watch previous shows, not going to be like a spoiler, but also related to Song of the Year. Pussifer with their Existential Reckoning album. They launched that album with a live concert at the end of 2020 from Arcosanti there in Arizona, and it was a fabulous show, fantastic concert. The album as a concept to me is part of what just drives, I guess, why I'm enjoying it so much. Musically, it's very different. It's a real throwback to a lot of early new wave stuff coming out of the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of electronic sound. And the concept for this album, I'm trying to think, the guitarist, Matt, who's their lead guitarist, he was playing around with an old synthesizer type instrument. And so the concept for this album started from a single instrument. And he was going back and forth with Maynard, sharing some different ideas and things he was doing. Maynard's like, okay, that's cool. Let's take that and let's build from that. And so the whole concept of the album musically started with a single instrument, and they started working and building from that synthesizer sound and adding to it and layering in, writing the songs. Lyrically, it's really interesting. I love the whole concept of this album. Basically, it's kind of looking at things going on Earth from the viewpoint of extraterrestrials, so to speak. So kind of their take on what's happening with humanity right now. And the reality was, so a lot of this stuff was written in 2019. 2020 comes along and COVID that nobody foresaw. And yet a lot of these songs deal with, or some of these songs anyway, kind of deal with that situation in an almost kind of prophetic way, which is really weird. There's a lot of good, I think, political commentary, in my opinion, on this. I think Maynard has always had a very interesting viewpoint. If you really break down a lot of his songs, from Tool to A Perfect Circle, There's always some very interesting commentary, and he has interesting ways of communicating that. Sometimes offensive, sometimes doing things to kind of strike a nerve, but to make a deeper point. And sometimes it's weird. I don't think he would want you to say this about him, but to me, he has almost more of a moral conscience for our country than a lot of people in religious circles, so to speak. Some of the viewpoints and the stances that he takes. So really interesting. And the same thing with this album. There's certain insights and commentary that if you dig into it, I find very interesting and very stimulating. Musically, love the concept they're doing. It's different for me. And it took a few listens for it to really kind of start to, I don't know, for me to start to absorb it. But once I did, it was like, oh my God, I'm just really, really getting into this, enjoying it. And so this was an album that stayed with me all year long, and I'm still listening to.
Yep.
It's still on steady rotation, and that's why it ended up being my album of the year. I think just conceptually, it's so interesting. It's so different. It's well done. You tie in the live concert they did to kick that off, and the way, it boils. So interesting to me is the way this whole album conceptually boils down. You get down to the final song, and there's they kind of go back and forth, a lot of dark themes, a lot of things sound, uncertain. And then you get to this last song, and the kind of the chorus is everything's going to be all right. And as they're singing this on the live show, they timed it so the sun is rising in the background, kind of like this, there's this little sign of hope for humanity. But at the same time, if you understand Maynard, there's also a little bit of a dig that he's got in saying everything's going to be all right. And reality is like, yeah, humanity may not survive, but in the end, nature goes on and everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
That's kind of his, just his way of looking at things. But I love the vocal play between Maynard and Karina Round. I think she's got a great voice, and just that dynamic, the way they work off of each other through this whole album. There's just, for me, there's nothing not to like about it.
Yeah.
I've just found the whole thing extremely interesting and so different from everything else that's going on out there right now. So
yeah,
that was my album of the year, and that's why.
Yeah. I'd not listened to that till you shared it as one of your nominees, and I found it pretty fascinating. The way the songs are structured, I think, are incredible. It seems like every song starts out very electronic,
right?
And then the guitars kick in later in the song. It's almost has a feel to me of you take 70s David Bowie and The Cure, and you kind of put them together, maybe sprinkle in a little Tears for Fears, and that kind of is the concoction. The song Underwhelming is probably my favorite off the album. I thought that was
I think that's a very good one as well. Yeah.
Drew, any thoughts on that, or are you ready to dive into yours?
Oh no, man. I've listened to the whole record. On kind of Ben's recommendation a couple times. I would agree with most of everything he said. This is not necessarily the genre that I gravitate to necessarily, but I definitely resonate with some of the writing elements of what he's talked about. Just kind of the pessimistic hopefulness.
Right.
That's a term that fits, of just, maybe this isn't all going to work out the way we thought it would. Maybe not the way we would want it to, but it does all work out. And just kind of that acknowledgement of the human condition. We don't always get to pick how things show up, but it is going to be okay. And that's a theme that I need to hear. I think a lot of us do. So big fan of that record from a writing perspective, for sure. Great recommendation. I appreciate Ben for bringing that to us this year. Yeah.
Well, these were Drew's Album of the Year nominees.
Yeah. Man, this Album of the Year nominee thing has been so hard. And as we've kicked it around in the group chat over the last year, I don't even know that I can still say with 100% certainty that the thing I chose a couple weeks ago was correct. But had a lot of good options, a lot of great music this year. But really have found myself going back to all of these in a certain way. But more than any the Lucas Nelson record. So,
Yeah.
this is an artist that I've loved Willie Nelson probably from the time I was 7, 8 years old. I really resonate with that kind of songwriting, but this record in particular has given me a great sense of peace over the last year of just saying, okay, there's a bigger picture here. Maybe it's not all something that I understand, but just kind of that understanding your place in the world or the universe, I guess. Of there's something bigger going on, and so kind of taking that from the family level at some of his writing of the lullabies that he's written for his kids and the love
Yeah.
song he's written for his wife, to his wishes for the world and his friends and his neighborhood and people that he's in life and community with,
Right.
zooming all the way out, are all themes that I just really love and have kind of just said, yeah, I get it. I'm in on that. So I think for that reason, um, that Lucas Nelson and the Promise of the Real record was my album of the year. Obviously, if you listen to our show from last week, you'll hear that the deeper explanation of all that. But that was
Yeah.
my record of the year.
Yeah, that was a great one. It was probably in my top 10, and I think there are some really, really solid songs in there, and I love to hear Lucas Nelson sing. It does take you right to Willie. It really does, and that's a lot of fun. Clark, any thoughts on Lucas Nelson?
Yeah, no, Happy Hanukkah, blah blah blah. Anyway, no, I love the album. I love the pick. Drew, for me, you have been I feel like you've got a great pulse on a lot of independent artists out there, and a lot of the music you've shared. You've turned me on to a lot of new stuff, a lot of interesting and good stuff, and so that I've deeply appreciated. So I really value kind of your I don't know. Plus, throw out the fact that you're actually a recording artist yourself. So I feel like you've got an incredible taste, in being able to break down what an artist can do and musically what they're doing. So I really value your opinion on that. When you share something, I usually take that to heart. It's like, okay, I better check this out. But yeah, this album I think is great. I think it's conceptually well done. It's he brings in a lot of wonderful heritage, and that carries through. And so it reminds me a lot of when I discovered Jacob Dylan outside of the Wallflowers. When you listen to some of his solo work, he is his own man, but that family heritage, that Bob Dylan heritage, it carries through in his songwriting and his voice, and you hear it and you feel it. And even though he's making his own mark, and so that it's something that I was able to kind of pull a comparison to, because I'm a Jacob Dylan fan more than I'm a Bob Dylan fan, which is weird. But I grew up.
That is weird.
Yeah, but I grew up loving Willie Nelson from an early age. My mom was a huge fan. Was always introduced from when I was little. So Willie, one of the classic outlaw country guys, I'm a big fan of. So hearing that heritage carry through and to another generation like that, and the way that he's doing it, these songs really good. So that's a great album, a great pick.
Fantastic comparison too. I like that comparison between Jacob Dylan and Lucas Nelson. I hadn't connected those dots before. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that you mentioned was introducing each other to new music, and that's one thing that kind of out of a conversation we had with Alan Bishop on Alan Bishop Day, he was lamenting the fact that it's hard to find where's the good music nowadays. And honestly, you do have to search for it. You can't turn on the radio and expect to hear it because you're not. But it's out there. And so during 2022, one of the things that we're going to do on this show on a fairly regular basis is we're going to have shows where it is completely focused on new music, new whiskey. And some of it may just be new to us, and everybody else may have already, caught on to it. But it's going to be it's going to be things that we think that that we like, and hopefully over time there's a bit of a trust factor that we can develop with the folks that watch the show. And if we say, hey, this is a great album, or this is a really good whiskey, folks will feel comfortable giving those things a try. But for me, on album of the year this year, I had just real quick on my nominees, the Marfa tapes. It's just beautifully rugged recordings of some fantastic songs with just a great stripped down sound. The Foo Fighters, Medicine at Midnight, probably their best album in a decade. Mammoth WVH is Wolfgang Van Halen's solo album. He plays every instrument, does every vocal on it. The Steelwoods is a band that if you love country and like rock, or love rock and like country, that is an album for you to check out. But my album of the year is the Black Keys Delta Cream. It just resonates with me. It's something that I can just turn on, and every time, doesn't matter what song. I don't have a favorite song on the album. Just put it on shuffle and let it go. Because everything on there just feels very authentic, very down to earth, and it hits me, right here, rather than just right here. And it just is one of those things that just connects. And so that is why that Black Keys album, Delta Cream, is my album of the year.
Outstanding record, man. Such a, I mean, you talked about it earlier on the previous episode, but the way that they get back to their roots and just kind of remind you of why you fall in love with a certain type of music, and returning back to that kind of gives you back a home base a little bit.
Yeah.
Totally hear that in all your comments and all your commentary on that, but just a great record. That's a fantastic addition to my Spotify playlist for this year and probably next year as well.
Yeah. My Spotify, playlist or 2021 playlist, it was okay. The entire Delta Cream album, and then, assorted everything else. So, yeah. All right. Ben, you want to talk about Song of the Year real quick?
Sure.
These were your nominees.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of gave it away there a little bit, just talking about album of the year. I think those have all been great songs this year that I've really enjoyed. But the Bullet Train to Iowa was one that I, came to a lot. For me, there was a lot of great songs on that album. Bread and Circus was a fantastic social commentary. Same with Apocalyptical a little way. Also Fake Affront, another one that I really connected with and loved. Just again, another good social commentary. But Bullet Train to Iowa, that one had a completely different feel. It was almost for me like a real standout on this album. And just love the way Maynard laid down the vocals on this, lyrically, the way it went, the guitars, everything on it, the whole flow of the song. I don't know. That's the one that, as I listened through this album over and over and over again, that was the one song that I kept kind of gravitating back to. Like, okay, this is the song I would hit it, and I'd play it, and then I'd play it again, and I'd play it again, and then I'd go on to other, play out the rest of the album. But then I would come back to that one again. It's like, okay, man, this one just hits in a way.
Yeah.
Singularity, that's another interesting song on that album. I mean, there's so many good songs on that album, but that was another one. If somebody's checking out this album for the first time, and be sure to listen through the whole thing, give a whole listen. But Bullet Train to Iowa, A Singularity, Fake Affront, those were kind of some of the standouts for me on this for different reasons. But
great too.
And Drew, these were your Song of the Year nominees.
Yep, all fantastic songs, mostly pulled from either records that I, nominated, or bands that I've seen live, or artists I've seen live this year. The number one standout for me was a song called "The Weakness" by Rustin Kelly. Shocker, I'm a Rustin Kelly fan. For anyone that knows me or follows me on social media. Um, this song in particular, though, has kind of carried me through some rough times this year as I've done my own kind of journey with recovery. Not just through, some substance abuse times, but also through uh, just trying to become a better man and leave some of the things that have tripped me up in the past. And one of the lines in the song, if you listen to it, is, "Hey, I'm tempted here to lose control, but
Mhm.
forget that guy. He's not part of me anymore."
Yeah.
He uses stronger language than that, but we don't give up to that weakness anymore. We don't
Yeah.
surrender to that. I'm not going back to that. I'm not part of that anymore, and has been such an inspiring and helpful lyric to me in times that I've been tempted to go back to things that have tripped me up before,
Yeah.
or to fall back into old patterns. And um, Rustin as an artist, but that song in particular has given me so much strength that I didn't even know I needed this year. So for that reason and several others, that song is my song of the year.
Yeah.
And he's in studio right now recording that song for record, um,
Yeah.
for his next record. So
Yeah.
can't wait to hear that in a studio version, not
Yeah.
just in live show
Yeah.
format.
If you
So
want to hear that song now, you basically have to search it on YouTube, and
yep,
it'll be a live version, and it is a terrific song. And the things that you said about it, and the transparency and authenticity with which you said it, I love.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah. If you're struggling with substances or mental health or anything like that, that song is for you, 100%,
Mm.
100%.
All
What
right.
about you,
So
Kevin?
for me, um, Magnum here. Uh, just man, any one of these are just fantastic songs in and of themselves. But the Foo Fighters song "Making a Fire" really, again, just kind of clicked with me in a very personal way. It is to me, it's a song about personal revival and
Mm,
getting uh, choosing to move forward, choosing to uh, rekindle uh, yourself, stir yourself up. It even has a little bit of a gospel feel to it with the background vocalists and everything. So I just there's probably a dozen different songs I could have put that title on, but that one, at least when we recorded the show, that was the one. So "Making a Fire" by the Foo Fighters. Um,
absolutely.
so before we a couple other music things I want us to talk about, and before we do that, though, if you've got to guys have a glass, and it should have your whiskey of the year in it, which we will
Hmm.
not disclose just quite yet. But this is our 15th show, so not it's some sort of a landmark. I don't know what's the 15th anniversary. Uh, Whiskey. I don't know what it is, but
Sure.
right now,
If not, it should be.
15 is whiskey.
Damn straight.
Well, really, all of them should be. But for our 15th show, and for the opportunity to get to know you guys on this level over that time, and for great music and great whiskey, cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, brothers.
And if you're in the chat tonight, hope you will take a pour with us. We thank you for being here and appreciate everybody's support as we are getting this little endeavor going. Now, on the music side of things, one other thing we want to talk about, because everybody hands out song of the year, album of the year, best new artist, all that stuff. You can see that at the Grammys and complain because nobody gets a Grammy that you've ever heard of. Okay. But one thing that I want us to talk about a little bit is there any music that you rediscovered this year? Something that you may have listened to in the past, or maybe something that, 20-year-old album and first time you ever heard it was this year. anything kind of hit in those categories for you?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I mean, I had several little things that I came across in a new way this year. Um, Kevin, in our conversations with our little group here in Louisville and
Mm-hmm.
a few other, people that I'm in touch with, the Damn the Torpedoes album, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, came back all fresh for me this year.
Yeah.
Part of the Somewhere You Feel Free documentary, got to watch that not too long ago. Just kind of re-fell in love with that album. And then the other was a record called Forever Words.
Mm-hmm.
It's a compilation of unreleased Johnny Cash songs
Oh,
that
wow.
were done by his son, John, along with several of the people in his family and some friends. Poems that he had written, maybe were intended for a song, maybe not, but just all things that he had written prior to his passing a few years back. It's a great compilation record. If anybody is not familiar with that, recommend that. And then the last one for me was a record called Broken Hearts and Dirty Windows, which is a John Prine tribute record.
Mm-hmm.
So John Prine is one of, if not in the top three, probably most influential songwriters in my life. Didn't discover him until later in life, but maybe if not the best songwriter in the late 20th century in country music. But you got everybody from Brandi Carlile and Sturgill Simpson
Mm-hmm.
to Jason Isbell, all covering John Prine tunes. And this is all just kind of in an effort to help with economic revitalization in Eastern Kentucky, something we'll talk about a little bit later. But the whole record was covers of his songs done by modern artists and the way that they had been influenced by John Prine. So those three records have all been a rediscovery for me. None of them came out this year, but have all been a fantastic
Sure.
addition to my listening repertoire this year.
Awesome. Benjamin, anything along those lines?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year music wise. So end of 2020 rolling into 2021, for me personally, I've spent a long time, and I tend to get on, like, I get stuck on a particular artist or a particular album, and I just deep dive the heck out of that for a while.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was coming off of probably the latter half of 2020, just deep diving everything Maynard. So Tool, Perfect Circle, Pussifer. I mean, just really going deep into all that. Some of that was personal. A lot of the music was connecting personally for me in the time and situations and things I was going through. But also just really, I felt like I was going on a whole other level of really exploring musically what those bands were doing. I wouldn't call it a rediscovery, but that's kind of where I was. But bands and things that I had really rediscovered this year. One kind of kicked off later towards the end of this year was Collective Soul. That was a band I've been a fan of for a long time, but just hadn't really listened to much in a while. Saw them in a concert here back in early October, and that just totally kicked off for me getting back into those guys. The Discipline Breakdown album, especially, I've really been digging, and right now going heavy on the Dosage album. Both of those I've really, really passionately enjoyed. Natalie Merchant, taking another left turn here, her Tiger Lily album. That was, when that came out, I was a huge fan of that. Big Natalie Merchant fan, love her voice. But that album, the songwriting, the music on that, I've really had. That one I probably hadn't listened to in a decade, and came back to that this year, kind of rediscovered that one. Spent some time really working through that a lot. A lot of the songs keep coming back in my head day to day. And then trying to think, there was another one that I had listed here that I really went into a good bit. See if I can find that real quick. Where did I have that down? Oh, going back to the 80s, Till Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
That's an interesting band. So exploring Amy's voice and again her songwriting. She's one of those people that probably known for the big hit Voices Carry from the 80s. That is to me like quintessential 80s type music from that period. But she was a songwriter for a lot of other musicians, and she was also a voice that recorded with a lot of other musicians and bands on albums. She's got a lot of credential as a songwriter and a vocalist, and just kind of going back and kind of digging through the albums a little bit and getting beyond the radio hits and kind of exploring what all she did on the albums and all. And I walked away with a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for Amy Mann and what she did with Till Tuesday. So.
Yeah, she is the duet vocalist with Geddy Lee on one of my favorite Rush songs, "Time Stands Still."
Yep.
Okay.
So, just to kind of keep that connection going, okay?
Right.
Till Tuesday, Amy Mann, Rush. Okay, so I'm a big Rush fan. The last 2 years on Spotify, you listen to Rush way too much. Wait, what? But it's like in the 0.4 percentile of anybody on Spotify. But my mom passed away this year, and back in the summer when she got real sick, I made several trips from Louisville to East Tennessee to visit her, visit my dad. And a lot of those were, get off work, get in the car, drive down. So, late night drives. And I would just kind of put stuff on shuffle and sometimes, and a Rush song came up that, I for some reason I hadn't listened to in a while, and it's a song called "Secret Touch." It's on the Vapor Trails album, and there's a lyric in that song that says, "The way out is the way in." And to me, that was saying it may not be what Neil Peart meant, okay, but to me it was saying the way out of this life is the way into the next. And at that time, that really meant a great deal to me, as you can probably imagine. So that's one that I rediscovered this year that meant a lot, and I got through that without getting too emotional. But a couple other things that I kind of picked up on again. Well, I'll go over one just for the sake of time, and that is Primus. And I have our friend Dave Ewalds to thank for that. Dave created a cocktail for the ABV cocktail contest called "Shake Hands with Beef," and it's a Primus song, and he put a link to the song in with his cocktail recipe, and I clicked on that, listened to it, and I've just been on Primus throughout the year. So Dave, thank you very much for that. I hope you're still in the chat. Thank you, sir. And Dave, you need to come to Louisville May 30th. Primus is playing here at a great little intimate venue. Come on down. You can stay here with me and we'll go see them together. So that was he's blushing. Yeah. Oh, I really, and Dave and Nadine are great examples of friendships that I've made through bourbon groups that I wouldn't know them any other way. So this thing is great. This stuff is just great.
Yeah.
But other thing I want to talk about, and we're kind of getting more on the music part than I thought we would, but that's okay. We'll get into the whiskey in just a few minutes, but I do want to talk about any special music moments, personal music moments that you had in 2021.
There's been a number. There was a moment. I mean, just music moments that are really cool. So there was a moment driving to work one morning that I'd left the house really early, came in, pulled into the parking lot at work. Nobody else was there. Sunrise was just starting to come up, and Parable and Parabola from Tool was playing from the Lateralis album, and listening to that, and then carrying over into Lateralis as I'm watching the sunrise. That was just like this really incredible moment. Just had it blasting. You're by yourself, almost like a meditative kind of thing. Really incredible lyrically and everything else. Had not experienced something quite like that. Getting to see some live music again. So Railbird Festival, seeing Jason Isbell was incredible. The Black Pumas were really impressive. And then there was an artist I had not heard of before that I ended up getting some of her albums. And I still don't know exactly how to pronounce her name. Joy Aladigan. Incredible songwriter. Really enjoyed her performances, and her music was really good. And then seeing Tonic and Better Than Ezra and Collective Soul in concert. That was, especially Collective Soul. The level of professionalism and artistry that they brought to the stage, the energy, everything else was just beyond anything I've experienced in quite a while musically. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very
awesome.
cool. How about you, Drew?
All right, I'll do 3 really quick. First one was getting to see a band here in Louisville called Watch House, formerly known as Mandolin Orange. Got to see that with my now girlfriend, Caitlin. That was a special moment for a variety of reasons, some of which you two are familiar with, but just sort of a full circle from life over the last couple of years to get to enjoy some of my favorite music with a person that really meant a lot to me. So that was a big deal. Second, and maybe first and foremost, I guess maybe I should have led with this, but was getting to record my first EP. So got to go down to Nashville with some great friends of mine.
Look at that
pick some
guy.
songs. Yeah.
Look at that guy.
What a chump. What a chump. But to get to record some songs and spend some time down with some great friends making a record, and really looking forward to that one coming out. That was just maybe the most special 4 or 5 days of my life that I can point back to at this point so far. And getting to spend some time, Kevin, with you and our good buddy Mark and several others down there. And then the other one happened about a month and a half ago. Was getting to be at the Ryman Auditorium with Rustin Kelly. Saw him for multiple times in the same week, but seeing at any show at the Ryman is special. And then he brought Jason Isbell out on stage for a song, and getting to see those two guys together play some tunes, kind of their own relationship and interaction. For those of you that don't know, Rustin Kelly is in recovery from substance abuse and alcohol and all kinds of other things. Jason Isbell is one of the reasons he is in recovery and kind of helped him pull out of some of those dark spots, and is kind of his sponsor through AA and NA and all those other kind of processes. And so seeing those two guys together playing some music, and in my own journey with those things, and get to see just a really special moment. Kind of cool. Almost had a heart attack that night. I think I texted you guys within about an hour after that show got out, and was kind of still losing my mind, but pretty special time. So those 3 I would point back of the musical highlights of 2021.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And for me, one of mine is the same as yours. Being able to go down to Nashville, watch you record for a day and some change, that was fun. I mean, it was a good time to see that process. But just I know how much it meant to you, and it was. It meant a lot to me to be able to see you do that. So that was a blast, and appreciate.
So glad you could make it down.
Yeah, appreciate you indulging us, and all the guys there that were working with you, Lorenzo and everybody. They were very kind to us as well. One that is a little different for me is a lot of times I will run sound at church, and when because I don't have any real musical talent, uh, I work sound booth, but to me, I take it very seriously, but it's a real way for me to worship, and it's just a way that I feel very connected and intimate with God in those moments, and I cherish the times that I get to do it. Other people see it kind of like, oh, it's my week to do this. What a chore! But man, I love it. It means a ton to me to be able to do it. And the third thing is last month I got to see Tedeschi Trucks Band with my wife, and it was on our anniversary. So it was just great, great time. Love to see them play. Love to see concerts with my wife and spend time with her, which is a good thing after 32 years. But Tedeschi Trucks, man, they're just awesome. If they're in your neighborhood, or even if they're not, you got to make a drive. Go do it. You will not regret it one bit. So that is mine. We've got let me see if I can find this here. Patrick, he's joined us here. He was
What's up,
cutting
Patrick?
wood.
Bet you were, Patrick. I bet you were.
Welcome, Patrick. Oh man.
So hey, I want to throw this out here for the music people real quick. Gary Clark Jr. is currently on tour.
Yeah.
He was in concert in Greenville the week that I was moving up here to Kentucky. So I was not able to get a ticket and go see that. But if he's coming to your town, check him out, find him on social media, look up. That is a show worth catching. If you love guitar, if you love blues, you love rock, you just love good music, go see Gary Clark Jr. Yep. That guy can tear it up on stage.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're wrapping up side A of the show. Maybe we should have made this a double album. I don't know. We're wrapping up side A. Hope you've enjoyed some of the music talk. We're getting ready to get in the whiskey talk when we flip this thing over. But before we do that, we want to take a quick break, and we want to tell you how you can help the victims of the tornadoes that ravaged southern Kentucky, western Kentucky this past week. One thing that you can do is you can donate to the Lee Initiative. That is the brainchild of Chef Edward Lee from here in Louisville. They are making meals and trying to help keep people get fed all throughout the damaged area. You can go to their website at leeinitiative.kindful.com, and you can make donations there. So if you're not in the Kentucky area and you want to help, this is one way that you can do it. Another thing you can do is participate in this Kentucky Bourbon Benefit auction. It is a online auction that's going to start tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and it will run until Tuesday the 21st at 10 p.m. And they're going to do a live auction starting on the 21st at 7. There'll be all kinds of rare and hard to find whiskey there. You can bid on those things, and all the proceeds will go to the relief efforts in Western Kentucky. Then finally, if you're in the Southern Indiana, Louisville area, Patoka Lake Winery, our friend Jolie Kasperzak is, she's a real big shot down there. You can go there and you can drop off items, baby wipes, diapers, toilet paper, all kinds of things like that. You can drop off those kind of things, and they will take it, be trucking it down to Mayfield next week. And speaking of Patoka Lake, Jolie broke the news last week that Patoka Lake has broken ground on a brewery, a hotel, and a distillery. And I wonder if I should send in my application for a master distiller.
Do it.
I think I will. I think I'll do that. I'm looking for that. That's going to happen. I don't think they've got any good candidates yet.
Nope.
I don't think they've got any good candidates yet.
No, they're just getting rolling, so they probably need some good people.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Joe needs somebody to tell her what to do.
I don't think anybody does that, especially
that has never
Andy.
been the case. That has never been the case.
Oh my goodness.
Unless he has a donkey in the hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a story for another day.
Yeah, probably so. All right, so let's talk about whiskey of the year here, and if I can find the graphic here real quick, Ben. Let's start with you, sir. These were your nominees, and some of these pictures are professionally done, and some of them are ones that I made.
Yeah.
Clearly not a professional. But Benjamin, talk a little bit about your whiskeys of the year nominees.
I personally think they're all fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously why they're whiskey of the year candidates. I think they're unique. They stand out a little bit from the crowd. They're not like trying to define quintessential Kentucky bourbon or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that is, and understand my evaluation for a spirit. Okay. It's beyond just the initial flavors I get. I'm breaking down everything from the way this spirit is structured. In other words, how all these things, how all the flavor components work together, the level of complexity, the nose, the palate, the finish, the mouthfeel, just how all of those things work together and come together to create an experience. I'm looking for, what can you taste in this whiskey? Am I just tasting barrel? Can I taste the grain? Can I taste the mash? Are all those components working together? Is one more dominant than the other? So there's a lot of things I'm factoring into looking at this, and these are why all these spirits made it to this level, because everything about them is exceptional in every area of that. So you got Heartfield, the wheated bourbon. That one is absolutely incredible because it's about a 5 to 6 month old whiskey, typically around 6 months old. It's aged in 6-gallon barrels. This one was produced by Kelly Tennille when she was the head distiller there. She is absolute master with this, from fermentation to distilling. It's a single pass pot still distillate. The new make is incredible, and she's putting it into these 6-gallon barrels that she's sourcing from Minnesota. Different type of wood grain that's more suited to the short-term aging like this, and the flavor that comes off of that is just astounding. I've poured that for a number of people, including professional distillers, and asked them to guess the age on it. Nobody could even come close. And when I tell them that it's about 6 months old, they're just blown away. So that one, you've got Limestone Branch, their 2021 limited edition. These are, there's some older bourbon in that. I believe they're sourcing from Heaven Hill, if I remember on that one correctly. I think it's like a 14 and 7-year-old, and aged in Amarone casks. And it's just a huge fruit bomb. So for a finished spirit, it's absolutely exceptional. The flavors are amazing. Again, well done. I love what they're doing down at Limestone Branch, from their standard release to their single barrel picks, to their experimental collections, everything just fantastic. This one is a standout. You have Alan Bishop out of Indiana in southern, Hoosier occupied northern Kentucky, as he would call it. So he's got this special release of his Lee Sinclair, which is a 4-grain bourbon. This was 3 unique barrels that kind of did not fit the standard profile for the batching that he normally does. So he blended these together. And it's unique. It's different from the standard Lee Sinclair profile. I'm not saying it's better. It's just different. And the flavor on this is just stunning. And again, the thing about Alan Bishop spirits are that even at like just a standard 100 proof or something like that, they stand up to cast strength spirits. The flavor, the viscosity, the aroma, everything stands out and stands up. This one comes in a little bit of a higher proof, and that flavor punch really carries through. It's an exceptional whiskey, top to bottom. Then you've got the Leopold 3-chamber rye. This one is historical. This is the first spirit release since before Prohibition that comes from a 3-chamber still. I'm not going to go into a lot on that. Just do a quick YouTube search. Todd has a great video explaining how the 3-chamber still works. I love the historical aspect of this, just the research he's done in bringing this style of whiskey back to us, which was something that was a lot more common before Prohibition. It's an absolute aromatic bomb. I mean, from the time you pop the cork on this whiskey, the aromas, it's very oily. The flavors are intense and rich. It's got a flavor profile that is flipped upside down from the standard rye and standard whiskey in the way you approach it, the way you think about it. And it's one of these spirits that you could sit here, you spend an hour with it in a glass, and every time you lift it, take a sip, it's something different. Something has changed. Something has evolved. Something else has come out. And there's just absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. Buzzards Roost is another one. They're toasted barrel rye. That was my first introduction to Jason Bronner's brand. And I freaking loved it. He's taking MGP. He's doing some special barrel finishing with these. This one is from a toasted barrel. Just forget what you think about MGP juice. What he does with it is really special and really unique, and it completely stands on its own. It's just exceptional whiskey, period. Even down to his new bourbon he's released. I got to taste another one this past week. That's a French oak finish, and that one is absolutely gorgeous. I love French oak, love what that can do to whiskey. So just really excited about the things he's developing and doing. But that one in and of itself is really incredible. Just another spirit that I kept. My bottle is really hurting. It's time for replacement because I kept coming back to it and back to it. It's fantastic in Manhattan. It makes a great old fashioned. It's incredible to sip on its own. So those are my whiskey of the year candidates.
Awesome.
Yep.
Drew, sir, how about you?
Sir, I've got a bunch. I'll be quick. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B release from this year made my list. Shocker to no one if you've drank with me before or been at my home bar. Heaven Hill products always make my list of favorites, but this particular year was great. Brown sugar bomb, heavy on the sweet aromatics. Love that one, and tend to gravitate towards anything barrel proof. So that one was up there for me. One of the favorites I've had. The Buzzards Roost single barrel barrel strength. I mean, what can be said that hasn't already been said about Jason and his selections? Like Ben said, if you know anything about MGP juice, forget it. Go try this stuff, and your mind's going to be changed. Particularly, I think, in the barrel strength category, this kind of supersedes all other offerings that are kind of in that category as far as flavor profile goes, complexity, the mouthfeel, all that kind of stuff. And Jason's really treating his whiskey specially and making it something that will stand out in a crowd. So love that one. The Old Forester 117. This was a project that was near and dear to me during my time there and some others. So getting to taste some of those barrels that were high angel share, which basically just means a lot of oxidation, a lot of angel share going away from those barrels, typically below 20 or 30% fill level. Just delicious whiskey. Big fan of those. The Wild Turkey Master's Keep in this particular year, the 17-year-old bottle in the bond. It's just freaking great. Some Jolly Rancher kind of a thing with like the grape Jolly Rancher thing. Some cinnamon, some baking spices, little bit of apricot, dried fruit, just very complex, very rich whiskey. And of course, all of us are huge Wild Turkey fans, as previously discussed, and will probably be discussed again. And then last one on my list was our friend, personally and friend of the show, Alan Bishop's Lee W. Sinclair 4 grain bottle and bond. So when I came across this year, Kevin, you introduced us to this. I think it was May or June at our Bourbon Fellowship meeting. But just fantastic stuff. The respect the grain motto definitely comes through on this one.
Yep.
You can tell that there's a high level of intention in each and every component of this whiskey. They all shine through in their own specific ways. And for a whiskey that's this young, relatively speaking, to be this rich, shows you that age is not everything.
Right.
What's coming off the still, what's going into that barrel makes every bit of difference. And the level of care and intention that Alan and his team put into every single bottle of their stuff really shined through. So big fan of all 5 of those for me.
Yeah, it's a very good list. Very good list. And I like Ben's list a lot too, because there's some carryover there. To me, my nominees are as much about the experience drinking these and discovering these as it is the whiskey itself. The whiskey itself is fantastic, but each of these has a personal component to it. That three chamber rye from Leopold Brothers. I mean, I remember the first time I tried it, I was with both of you guys and Christy Atkinson. We're sitting on my back patio. I opened the bottle and I pour some in a glass and I pass the bottle along, and I'm sitting there taking a picture of it. Actually, this picture right here in the top right corner, taking a picture of it. And as I'm sitting there, I just, up from the glass sitting at the table is just this great, fantastic, never before experienced nose from this aroma from this whiskey. It's like nothing else that I've ever experienced. And I'll always remember that. You know, however many iterations Todd comes out with this 3-chamber rye, I'll always remember that. And I'll remember being with you guys too. So that made it really special. With the, I also have Buzzards Roost Toasted Barrel on mine. The first time I had an opportunity to sit down and have a drink with Ben and Mike and Patrick, we were on my back patio in April, and we were drinking Buzzards Roost Toasted Barrel and freezing our behinds off because it was cold.
Yes,
it was cold that night at probably 1 a.m, and guys were smoking cigars, and we'd already shut down Bourbon's Bistro and picked up Pat at the airport. And so again, the whiskey's fantastic. And I also had an opportunity one night to sit outside on the sidewalk in front of Bourbon's Bistro with Jason Bronner, and he had a bottle of toasted barrel strength, and we sat out on the front sidewalk there in those little tables and had a couple of pours of that. I'm telling you, Buzzards Roost, if you are watching, toasted barrel strength, do it. It's just got to happen. It's just out of this world. Then this Iconoclast, that's another one that Ben and I shared as a nominee. I remember going up to the distillery on a snowy January afternoon and picking up this bottle. Jolie was there at the time, got to talk with her, try a sample of it with her there. And then I got it home and did a deep dive into it. And it's like, man, this is whiskey of the year. So in January, I said, Lee W. Sinclair Iconoclast is whiskey of the year. I called my shot, and we'll just have to see if it goes gate to wire. We'll find that in a few minutes. Another one on my list is Old Monroe, which is Stumpy Spirits over in Columbia, Illinois. It is a single barrel called Wheat and Tarnation. And I know some of this, we've got single barrels and, special releases and things of that nature. And I know that if you don't already have those and you're listening to this, then you're like, well, how does that help? Well, you're also getting to hear about maybe some distilleries and some whiskey that you've not had before. You can't get Iconoclast anymore at Spirits of French Lick, but there's a lot of great stuff that Spirits of French Lick is putting out. Same thing with Stumpy Spirits. You can't get wheat and tarnation anymore, but check out what Adam Stump is doing over there in Colombia. It's really special stuff. And when I got to try this, it was at an ABV network special event that Adam was hosting, and we're out in his rick house and he's drilling barrels, and he pulled from this barrel and is like, wow, this is amazing. How can we buy this barrel right now?
Yeah.
And
good stuff.
And every time after that, I would when I would talk with Adam, I would ask him how my barrel was doing, and ultimately he sold it to a store down there, but I was able to get a couple of bottles of it, so I was very pleased with that. And then finally, Little Book Chapter 5, The Invitation. This is a little different. It's got some younger whiskey in there. It's got some young 100% malted rye in there. And I really enjoy it. And the personal connection is, first time I opened the bottle, Mike was here with me. He was here for the weekend. We opened that bottle. We tried a little bit, wrote a little article on Bourbon Fellowship blog about it. And that was special. So those are my 5 nominees for Whiskey of the Year. Now, actually 3 of the distillers involved with my Whiskey of the Year nominees. I've got a special announcement here. 3 of the distillers involved or that are in my Whiskey of the Year nominees I'm going to do a show with them sometime in early 2022, where Alan Bishop and I will be having a conversation with Todd Leopold and Adam Stump. And we're going to be talking about their historic stills. We'll be talking with Todd will be talking about the 3 Chamber, obviously. And Adam has just started running whiskey on his 100-year-old still from Belgium that survived Nazi occupation, so that's something to be looking for as we get into 2022. So wanted to make sure everybody had a little bit of heads up on that. You'll see more information come out on it as we get closer to it. But with all that said, let's circle back to Ben. And Ben, what is your Whiskey of the Year?
Before I make the big reveal, I want to make a quick comment on your list. Something that I noticed that I really appreciate and love is how much every one of your whiskeys is connected to an experience. Mm-hmm. Your memories, in sharing and experiencing that, just about every single one is tied to some kind of experience that you had with that. And, to me, that just defines what this is all about, period.
Agreed.
And that's, I really love that. So without further ado, Whiskey of the Year for me, 2021, may come as no surprise to some, but congratulations, Todd Leopold. You knocked it out of the freaking ballpark with this one. The 3 Chamber Rye, this one's the Distiller's Edition. There's nothing like it in whiskeydom, in my opinion. Not in the Scotch world, not in bourbon, not in rye, not in Irish, not in anything else. There's just nothing that really compares for me. I'm at a place, try not to sound like an a-hole here, but I'm at a place with whiskey that, you can pour me a bottle of Evan Williams and I can enjoy it, and that is absolutely fine. But I'm at a place with spirits and with whiskey, it takes something really special to really catch my attention. Mm-hmm. This is something really special, and it's beyond that. It's maybe one of the most special whiskeys for me that I've had in a long, long time.
Mhm.
There's such a uniqueness to it. There's such a quality and character to it. I knew probably from the first moment I tasted this that this is whiskey of the year. This sets the bar so high. It's going to be hard for anything else to compete. Granted, I've had some that I thought, you know what, that could make a run for it. You know, doing pretty good here. But every time I come back to the 3-chamber rye, there's just nothing that compares to it. It's just that freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could go on and elaborate about tasting notes and all that kind of stuff, and I may do a write-up about it later on at some point, but it's just, you know, like I said, nothing compares to it. The aroma that comes off of the aromatics, the oiliness, the flavor, the way it continues to evolve, the complexities that are there, the historical attributes of this, it's an absolute grand slam in every way. So congratulations, Todd. And that's a fantastic whiskey.
Yep. Tough to argue with.
Yeah.
Yep. Really is. Mr. Crawley.
All right. So mine will probably be no surprise to the two of you, but maybe for the rest of the folks watching. My whiskey of the year was the Old Foe 117. This is one of the most special whiskeys I've ever had the privilege to drink, for some sentimental reasons and for some flavor profile reasons. I won't get into all the tasting notes, but I had the privilege of being a part of this product's launch and its early conception during my time at Old Forester, getting to work with Jackie and Tyler and all the people that are there now. And we all just kind of fell in love with this off-profile thing that we were doing with the single barrel selection program, and these barrels that were 20-30% full, but had so much maturity because of the amount of exposure to oxygen that they had. And we had kind of joked about, okay, yeah, we're going to set these aside for something. But then to see that come to full fruition 3, 4, 5 years later now, and to have that just delicious brown Foreman profile. Yes, it's the Bananas Foster. Yes, it's all those other things we all talk about on the forums. But for me, you know, you got this tremendous pear note, a lot of rich, deep toffee, some of these things that I'm just in love with. And then some of the connections that this particular bottle has for me to some fond memories, some of which the two of you have gotten to be a part of. And this was just the standout for me. Like Ben said, when I hold this whiskey up to everything else that I've had the privilege to try this year for the first time, this one was the head and shoulders standout. So, Old Foe 117, cheers to Jackie and Tyler and everybody else a part of this program, getting this off the ground and running, and looking forward to seeing what the next couple of releases of this look like.
Yeah. Yeah. And just kind of getting to know you guys. Well, I know I've known you, Drew, for a while, and Ben, I've probably known you for close to a year now. Neither of those answers for whiskey of the year were a surprise. I probably could have filled out your card for you, and but that's part of getting to know people, as you and part of the beautiful thing of it is you get to understand what somebody else likes and what they appreciate, and if you discover something that you think that it fits that profile or is something special, you can be excited about sharing it with those folks. So both excellent choices. For me, I mean, I really went, I don't know, a month or so ago, sat out on the deck and had all 5 bottles out and did a little tasting and kind of narrowed it down to 2. And those 2 were the Leopold Brothers Rye and the Lee W. Sinclair Iconoclast. And I got Cindy to pour a blind for me. And I pulled the first glass and I went, wow, this nose is amazing. This must be 3-chamber rye. And I tasted it. I'm like, no, that's not it. And then I pulled up the 3-chamber, and wow, nose of the year, nose of the century, that gets it. Okay, the 3-chamber is just something very, very special. But as I really went through it, I came down to that Iconoclast, like I was talking about with album of the year, song of the year. It resonates with me. It just hits on every level for me. That's what the Iconoclast does for me. So Gate to Wire, Whiskey of the Year, B.W. Sinclair Iconoclast, and congratulations, Alan Bishop. You have retained that title for the entire 12 months of 2021 for whatever that is worth. But it really is great. It's French toast and cream and cherries, and it's just deliciousness, and I never get tired of it. So that is my whiskey of the year, and I don't think there were a bad choice in any of the selections or even the nominees. So any other thoughts from you guys on that?
Yeah, no, I just want to say there's not a bad whiskey on this entire damn list.
Nope.
I mean, every single one of these, I would be more than pleased to show up at a bottle share. I'd be more than pleased to see it on my shelf. There was a lot of fantastic stuff going out tonight. So can't complain about any of these lists. Can't complain about any of the winners either.
Okay, so a little breaking news from Alan. Maddie Iconoclast is next. Okay. We'll look forward to that one.
Yeah, because Maddie was one of my top whiskeys from 2020. Still one of my personal favorite bourbons, top 3 that I go to. Again, freaking love. I mean, full disclosure, yes, Alan is a great personal friend, but just from a professional standpoint, I freaking love everything that guy produces. The way his whiskeys are crafted, what he puts together, they're absolutely incredible. And they've been game changers from day one since I first ever tried any of his stuff starting last year to now. And so, and a Maddie Iconoclast, that gets me pretty dang excited.
Take that.
Yeah.
So Maddie Gladden was that was the pour for 2 very definitive special moments in my life this year.
Yeah. Right.
And if there's an Iconoclast release, I'm first in line, man. Let's make it happen, Alan.
We're gonna have the first official camp out for the opening at Spirits of French Lick.
I got my sleeping bag ready. Let's go.
Hashtag Indiana allocated. Here we go.
Indiana allocated. Oh my gosh, does it come to that? Oh wow. Well, I think we've acquitted ourselves well in our music awards and our whiskey awards. We didn't try to do too many of those, but I think that's a good thing. It gives us a chance to deep dive into that a little bit. So that's I think we've had a good time. I hope people in the chat have enjoyed it. If this is your first time with us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. We appreciate it. And please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, all that great stuff. And while we're talking about that, Ben, why don't you share a little bit on the social media side of things?
Social media? What's that?
I don't know.
It's a cancer.
It's of the devil.
That's what it is. That's right. It's a cancer of humanity these days. No, so if you like getting sick and getting cancer and you're signed up for Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, no. So you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Well, the Twitter, is that active yet, Kevin? Or is that still sitting out there in the cloud?
It's out there in cyberspace.
So,
but it's not active yet.
We are Bourbon Turntable, Instagram and Facebook. Stay off Twitter. That is the cesspool of humanity anyway.
It really is.
So you'll find us posting and sharing things, music and whiskey related quite often. Yeah. We're also here on YouTube, where you are. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things that are there so you can follow our show. Hit that bell notification so you know when a show is coming out and when we're going live. Also, you can find us personally. We're Drew is on Instagram. Kevin and I are both Instagram and Facebook. You'll be able to search us out there and check out the fun stuff we're into. There you have it. You can also find me with my other compadres, Mike and Patrick, on My Whiskey Den as well.
Yeah. Fun show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. Drew, tell us what's coming up next.
Yeah, check us out next week. This coming Wednesday, we're going to be talking eggnog and Christmas music with a friend of ours and friend of the show, Mr. Jason Bronner of Bourbon's Bistro and the Buzzards Roost. Yep. We had a fantastic conversation with him. And if you're in the area, make sure to go check out his restaurant. Get a bottle of eggnog if it's still around. If you can get it, highly, highly recommend. But that's going to be a great show. Looking forward to getting to share that with you guys.
Yeah. And one other thing that I'll plug, we will be doing a live show on December 29th. It'll be our end of the year extravaganza, Bourbon Turntable and My Whiskey Den. Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. I don't know about the human sacrifice. We may not. I don't think we'll have that night, but who knows? You never can tell.
Maybe.
See if Mike smarts off.
Maybe.
But that'll be a ton of fun. Love those guys and really appreciate the support, Ben, that you and Mike and Patrick throw our way as well. So until next time, on behalf of Drew and Kevin's Porch, #Bushwood, Benjamin Eaves, and myself, thank you for joining us. Have a very Merry Christmas. Cheers, love, and free bird.
Happy Festivus.
Got a lot of problems with you people.
And you're going to hear about it.
Good night.